Whatever happens here tonight may as well never have happened at all, because this circle's about as far as it's ever gonna go. In other words, forget everything. Okay, good or bad, we don't remember, so we got nothing to talk about. Through a night we'll never remember, but the four of us will never forget.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Sound good?
Yes, sir!
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, Adam did such a great job with that. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Almost Sideways podcast. This is our special in-between episode where we break down our Pinot awards that we just had. And we're recording this on Monday morning. So they're less than 24 hours old. I don't know how much real perspective we're going to get on this. But it's going to be good. It's going to be good. I'm joined by Todd. Todd, how's it going?
Good. Still trying to figure out how Bobcat didn't get a nomination.
Yeah, there were several mysteries of how stuff came out the way it did, and that's one of the things we're going to try and answer. I'm the one that collects all the data and goes through everything and brings about the stats and the nominations. Well, actually, Adam's the stats. He gave me some stats that we're going to look at here in a little bit. But yeah, just initial reaction, Todd. We're going to go through each category just briefly, and especially the major categories. But what other than Bobcat getting robbed, what were your initial thoughts of the Pinots?
I think we did a pretty good job at making kind of a mediocre year a lot of fun to talk about and stuff. I mean, we ended up highlighting a lot of movies, which is good. I mean, our debated categories, we went deep on some of that stuff, like more so than we usually do. So I'll be interested to see them all compiled now because I mean, it was 3+ hours that we spent just like blowing through that.
So to your comment on we highlighted a lot of movies. We don't try for this, but 2008 we nominated 54 movies. 2022 we nominated 55 movies. 2009 we nominated 56 movies, and in 2023 we nominated 57 movies. So it's all right in the same area. Well, I mean, it's 56 if you count the David Letterman show as a movie, but we'll get into that. So we're just.
I also have no idea
walk...
the one I had a blind resume and I have no idea what it was. Still.
Oh yeah, I'll yeah. So if something is doesn't quite make sense, or if something's really really close as I'm tabulating, I will ask Todd for his input, and I give him blind resume, and ask him what do you think, what should be here, and we kind of go from there. And I thought you figured it out. I'm surprised you still don't know. Okay,
well,
that's cool.
I wasn't trying
cool.
to figure it out, but yeah, I'm just looking at my stuff, and I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Okay, well, let's get into just discussing this, looking at what happened last night. Our first category we talked about was Best Supporting Actress, which I think everyone was a little surprised how chalky it was. Which is, I think you'd say that's fair, right, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all had interesting mentions, but it all defaulted to the same few that were common.
Our nominees for Best Supporting Actress, it was Vera Farmiga, Up in the Air, Anna Kendrick, Up in the Air, Melanie Laurent, Inglourious Bastards, Monique for Precious, based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire, Julianne Moore for A Single Man, and Samantha Morton for The Messenger. So the way I tabulate this stuff is I go through and we each give our top 10s. And I have 3 methods of like tabulating how they're all going to be compared. One is just looking at consensus over everything. One is looking at consensus with a slight weight to who loved the performance most. And the last one is more looking at passion over anything else. And really, I mostly go by the passion. Um, so like if someone has something like first and someone else had it in their top 10, that usually trumps everything. But the other ones definitely play a role in helping determine that. So let's look at supporting actress. If I remember right, this was a fairly open and shut case. Like it was these six. So let's look at what we had here. We pull this up, and now we've got our stats up on our screen. So supporting actress, there's our six, and we have um I'll say this: there is a very clear front runner heading into the voting, as you have one performance that almost, like in 2008 we had a perfect score for Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. We almost had a perfect score for Melanie Laurent in Inglorious Bastards. Out of a total potential, so if you're in first place, you get 10 points. If you're in second place on a list, you get 9 points, so on and so forth. She had a total score of 38. So
Yeah.
that's a heavy favorite going in. There were only 8 overlaps on any list. You had Melanie Laurent, Monique, Anna Kendrick, Vera Farmiga, Samantha Morton, Julianne Moore, Maggie Gyllenhaal in Crazy Heart, and Jennifer Coolidge in Bad Lieutenant. Those are the only overlaps for any list. So
It's surprising. Like I didn't have Julianne Moore on my list, and I'm pretty sure I'm the biggest fan of that movie. So that was a shock to me that she got in.
well, someone had so that because there weren't many overlaps. She was fifth, was the highest she was on anybody's list. But the Maggie Gyllenhaal performance and the Jennifer Coolidge performance, they were all in the bottom 10 or the bottom of the top 10. So it was like you look here, top 6, those 6, top 6, those 6. And then here for the passion picks, you go down and you've got those 6. You had one last year there was in the 2008 Pinots, there was only one number 1 overall that did not make a nomination. There were several here, and one of them, I believe this was your number 1, Todd, was Juliette Binoche from Summer Hours. Yeah,
which I feel like Zach just forgot to put it on.
probably. But our rule is everyone is guaranteed one of their top 3 to be nominated, and only once, and it was in 2022 for adapted screenplay, I think.
Yeah.
We had to use that rule, and it was Todd for Paris 13th District and adapted screenplay. And I think it's because you're the only one that's seen it. And none of your other top 3 were in there. So we didn't have, that's why we mentioned on the podcast, we didn't have any 13th districts. Everything else was
so one question I have. So if you had given some weight to Zoe Saldana having been nominated for the same performance in different categories, would that have cracked the list?
No, I don't think so.
Would have been too low.
I had her 5th. And I think Adam had her in lead, is somewhere in the back half of his top 10, I think.
So she would have been probably the next one up or so.
Yeah, she probably would have been the next one up.
Okay.
But the fact that you had Julianne Moore, I think, let me look here. Julianne Moore, it was 2/5. Julianne Moore had 2/5. That's how she got that 6th spot. She was definitely 6th. But yeah, that's how it got in. So that was a pretty easy category to look at. So that was not your blind resume category. Okay. So then after that, we moved on and talked about minor character. So let's look at the nominees for best minor character here. We've got the erotic connoisseur from Girlfriend Experience, Torsten Voges. I'll talk about that in a second. From Funny People, Oscar Nunez in The Proposal, Mike Tyson in The Hangover, and the winner was Bill Murray in Zombieland. So Todd, Um, what were your thoughts on how this category went?
It's always kind of a crapshoot with minor character, but I mean, I feel like we did highlight some really good ones, and Zach, of course, character I don't recall at all,
Of course.
but we made polls out of stuff that I didn't expect, like the proposal. That was a good call from Adam.
Yeah, I picked the German doctor and funny people.
Yeah.
And it was one of those where was it what I wanted? Like I funny people was potentially going to be one of my overrated picks, and I went with it here.
I was also
Arsh-
surprised that you pulled something out of funny people. That's
yeah, but it was I felt it was in the best spirit of the category. Like, oh yeah, that guy, like the memorable one scene guy. Like that's a German doctor. So, but Bill, yeah, cameos are always great, and we had two of them here with Bill Murray and Mike Tyson. So.
well, if we went with like, I mean, we all kind of wanted J.K. Simmons in there, but it doesn't really fit with what we do with that category. Like he was the best one scene performance, or one of them. So I mean, but that's not really what we do.
Right. Okay, I like that Bill Murray got the Pinot. That was good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now on to worst performance. So here we had Justin Chatwin for Dragon Ball Evolution, Will Ferrell for Land of the Lost, Max Records Where the Wild Things Are, Taylor Lautner for New Moon, just out of respect, and then Quentin Aaron for The Blind Side was our winner. Todd, how ridiculous is it that Adam nominated something he hadn't even seen, but the critics pan it?
Well, I mean, he was doing the Zach thing. He even called his shot on that one. So
He
I mean,
did
yeah,
call a shot.
it is ridiculous, but it's also ridiculous that Zach chose Max Records. Like, I mean,
That's more the Zach thing, is to pick not a bad, no, not a horrible performance, but a performance you may not necessarily like in a movie everybody else does. Like he picked Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer last year. So
true. Yeah, that one went about as well as we could have. I mean, Quentin Aaron was a great choice for a winner.
Yeah, I'm bummed. Will Ferrell landed law. That guilty pleasure one. I really do appreciate that movie.
Hmm.
Yeah. But you know what are you gonna do? Okay. Moving on, we have Best Supporting Actor was next. So let's go back and look at Best Supporting Actor. There it is. And this one I knew we were going to have some fun with when the first name I read off was Ben Affleck in Extract. I knew this was gonna go over well. So I had Ben Affleck for Extract, Steve Buscemi for The Messenger, James Gandolfini for Where the Wild Things Are, Woody Harrelson for The Messenger, Anthony Mackie for The Hurt Locker, and Christoph Waltz for Inglourious Bastards. So what did you think of this category and how it went?
I mean, it definitely didn't stack up the way I was expecting, but I mean, we did get some great performances in there. I was shocked that Ben Affleck made it in. Like, someone must have had that like number one or something, right?
No. Here's what happened. There were only 6 crossovers.
Wow.
That was it.
So those were the 6.
Were the only 6 that were on multiple lists.
That's funny because Adam's like, yeah, I was trying to stack the deck. He tried to cheat and it didn't even work because he put Steve Buscemi up there and I had him on my list.
Yeah, these were the only 6 that were on multiple lists. So it made it an open shut case. So the highest The highest Ben Affleck was on any list was 6th. I had to go down quite a ways to get there, but everybody had a top 3. And even if you look at it,
and so even though that's not a great stat though, but yet that would still take precedent over somebody's number one.
Yeah, because even no matter how you looked at it, every list like here, Ben Affleck placed 6th because he had the two lists. Here, Ben Affleck placed 6th because what was he? He was 2/6, and 6th you get weighted with it's like 10 or first, second, third you get 3 points in the weighted tabulation, Fourth, fifth, sixth, you get 2 points, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, you get 1 point. So even there, 2 6 is better than a first. So, but if you look at it here, right underneath on both of these, Christian McKay, Mia Orson Welles, Jackie Earle Haley for Watchmen, like the 2 number ones that missed were right there. There is a heavy favorite here again. It was the only one that was on all 4 lists. Not as big of a favorite as Melanie Laurent though. Christoph Waltz at 35 points out of a total possible of 40. So if you get 40 points, that means you were number 1 on every list. He was at 35. Melanie Laurent was at 38. So I think Melanie Laurent was like a first, a second, and a second. So, anyways, this was a pretty open and shut category. I don't think we've ever had a category where only 6 overlaps before. So that did make it handy. There were 30 different performances shouted out in our list for Best Supporting Actor.
So we had one person that was nominated for 2 different movies, or was on lists for 2 different movies. That doesn't. I mean, and then Zach also had 2 people or 2 nominations from the same person. Like,
Right,
you don't
Maggie
do anything
Gyllenhaal.
with that.
I mean, I would say, I'd say I'm okay with it being in your top 10, but only one of them could get into the list. Only one of them could get the nomination.
But you don't give more, like, that'd be something that you could give more weight to. If, like Stanley Tucci was on 2 lists for different movies.
Mhm.
You could almost, like, I don't know, put in some sort of
half a point
formula for, like a half credit or something.
That's not bad. But it wasn't very, like, he was 10th on a list for Julie and Julia. I think I had him pretty high. I had him 4th on my list for The Lovely Bones. So, anyways,
but, I mean, yeah. So I mean, but yeah, the actual overlaps, I guess, would still be a lot better than that.
yeah, that's true. That honestly might have gotten Maggie Gyllenhaal in, over Julianne Moore, because she was not far behind Julianne Moore. Well, always was behind Julianne Moore, but not far. Okay. So after Best Supporting Actor, any other thoughts on that? The 2 nominations for The Messenger. All right. I will say, this is the one thing I noticed from this is the intense passion you and Adam have for The Messenger shone out brightly throughout this process. And there were a few moments where Zach and I aligned on stuff, like, the Best Picture race, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, well, I do like. Is this our first voice performance nominated for a major award?
That's possible. I think you're right. I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so the messenger definitely was all over the place here.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on from that, after we did supporting actor, we went to Nicolas Cage, and this is always fun. And yeah, so here was our Nicolas Cage lineup. Matt Damon for The Informant, John C. Reilly for Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Apprentice, Joaquin Phoenix on the David Letterman Show, filming I'm Still Here, Charlton Copley for District 9, and
It's the Vampire's Assistant, by the way.
Oh, it says, see, I was wondering about that. Okay, let me fix that. And the winner is Dietrich Lesser for The Human Centipede. So after we were done, Adam texts me and goes, "Oh crap, our website says Human Centipede is a 2010 movie, but internationally it was released in 2009. So, I mean, our winner is kind of fraudulent, but we'll go with it. in a movie that only Zach and Adam have seen.
Right.
I love the idea of Charlton Copley. Like, that would have been that would have been a great one. But
yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good list. I feel like we all were on the right track, except, I mean, I don't know The Human Centipede, but
yeah,
we just decided that one was going to be the thing. But
it's ridiculous. The concept is ridiculous enough. You go, oh yeah, That would be a Cage role.
I guess. I don't know. He doesn't do a lot of things that are like that crazy, but
Yeah.
he would be the crazy one.
Mhm. Okay. Like I said yesterday, I had fun pairing up Cage with underrated because I thought that was a neat follow up to it. So the underrated performances. This is quite the lineup. We had Fighting, Halloween 2, Obsessed, The Men Who Stare at Goats, and then the winner was Knowing, a cager there. So, um, I mean, I haven't even seen Knowing. Now I kind of have to, but I like how our passion just kind of rung out in this. Like you had the random Channing Tatum movie that no one no one knows about. Adam had the random horror film that he loves more than anybody else. Zach had the weird erotic thing that everyone panned. I had a movie that no one remembers exists, and then we agree on the Cager because all of Cager's movies are underrated. So
Yeah, this was pretty. Yeah, it was our time to just shout out movies that were not going to get mentioned anywhere else, except apparently Zach and Adam still nominated those movies in other categories.
yeah, yeah. This was The Men Who Stare at Goats' only nomination. I When was the last time you watched The Men Who Stare at Goats?
So the theater.
Yeah, it, it's silly, it's goofy, but oh, it's funny. It's so funny. Anyways, yeah, it was a good category, and yeah, shouting out a cager is always good. Um, Adapted screenplay came next, and I know you were greatly looking forward to this category, um, because well, you had said we mentioned it a little bit yesterday, but this was like one of the worst lineups you could possibly have, right?
Yeah, I have like several like borderline thumbs down movies that I had to nominate.
All right, well let's look at what we came up with. We have District 9, An Education, Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Informant, Precious based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire, and Up in the Air. Best adapted screenplay. I think despite all its faults, this probably went as well as it possibly could have. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we had 4 of the 5 Oscar nominees, right? We figured that out.
Yeah, that's true. Um, and the only ones we had in there were Fantastic Mr. Fox and The Informant were the ones that weren't.
So, one thing Adam wanted to know how close Where the Wild Things Are was to getting in.
So let's see here. So there's only one that was on all 4 lists, and it was An Education. Um, so in the first category, you had these were the 6. 7th was A Single Man. 8th was Where the Wild Things Are. 9th was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Those were the only ones that had crossover. So Where the Wild Things was oh yeah, this was close. So Where the Wild Things Are was 8th on the first tabulation. The second tabulation, it was 7th. And then this is one. This isn't the one I asked you about, but it played out very similarly. You had Where the Wild Things Are was had a 3rd as its highest, but An Education was on all 4 lists. So I went with An Education because of the overall consensus. Where the Wild Things Are just missed. And An Education, it was 1st, 5th, and then like 7th. Where the Wild Things Are, or yeah, Where the Wild Things Are was 8th, 7th, and 6th. So went with the consensus there. I forgot that I had done that. Yeah. So that's what happened with Where the Wild Things Are. It was I had to get the consensus in there, and even it like yeah, and so the blind resume I gave you, we'll get to in a little bit, but that one was topped out at a 2nd place, where the Wild Things Are topped out at third place made it slightly different, but that's what happened.
Yeah, it would have been weird to leave off the only one that was on all 4 lists, I guess.
Yeah, and that was the blind resume one we'll get to in a little bit too, but that was
Well, plus you said it was a first, right? Oh no, it came in. Oh, it was first on the list, not.
it was first on the list. No,
Right.
it had it was 2 6ths and 2 7ths was an education.
Hmm.
But the only one that was a full consensus by all 4 of us, especially in a weak category, that's what we had to go with.
Sure.
Two number ones got left off: Watchmen and Julia. Everybody's number 2 got in, which is interesting. So this one's a toss up on who's going to get in, I think, or who's going to win. They could go a lot of different ways. So I'm not sure where it's going to go from here. But
Cool.
that's adapted screenplay. All right. So after adapted screenplay, we went and were warring Matt Damon and talked about the Matt Damon "What Movie Are You In" award, which I loved how we had this category. It's so good. It's so good that we added this in. So the nominees were Gene Simmons in Extract, Matt Damon in Ponyo, Jason Bateman in State of Play, Nicolas Cage for G-Force, and the winner was Mike Myers in Inglourious Bastards. I'm glad I threw that one out there because it ended up winning, and it's the best one. I mean,
yeah, we covered a lot there. We had the Damon that had to be there probably. He had a Cage because I feel like that's him in most movies.
yes.
And then just more Extract left. I need to rewatch that. I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's on Pluto TV. Yeah. And then Mike Myers, I mean, getting his second nomination. It is the Matt Damon "What Movie Are You In"? Is this a Pinot or is this a Merlot? Or is it like somewhere in between? Like, is it a red blend? I mean,
that's a good way to put it. I don't think it's exactly a bad thing. But, I mean, Matt Damon in Oppenheimer was like a critically lauded performance. He just is out of place.
True. All right, so from there we went to overrated film, and this was a bloodbath, as we all just decided to crap on each other's favorite movies here. So my pick was Watchmen, which was one of Adam's top movies. Adam's pick was Paranormal Activity, which was one of Zach's top movies. Then you picked In the Loop, which I don't think anybody else has seen.
But the only adapted screenplay we didn't have on our list.
Yeah, and then Zach's pick was Avatar, which was one of my top movies. So we came to a consensus on The Blind Side.
Yep.
That's the only way that
multiple
category
Merlots for The Blind Side.
Yes, it was the only way that could have gone. The only way. All right. Next was original screenplay. This might have been the loudest cheer we got the entire time because the first name listed off in the original screenplay was Big Fan. Then we had
Yes.
Funny People, The Hurt Locker, Inglourious Bastards, The Messenger, and Up. Yeah, this one, as the tabulation went, it looks like, now I'm looking at it again. It's been a little while since I've looked at this. The clear 7th place was 500 Days of Summer. And in the first tabulation, it had the 6th place spot, and Big Fan was in 7th. But once the Passion started to be considered, they flip-flopped in the second round. And in the third round, Big Fan had a number 2 and was on another list where 500 Days of Summer topped out at a 5th, but it was on 3 lists. So Big Fan definitely got the last spot. 500 Days of Summer just missed. And then the other ones that had overlap were Away We Go, Extract, and Adventureland. So what are your thoughts here, Todd?
Well, I think I said this was the Todd category. I mean, 5 of these I think made my list. It's a great It's a great list. I'm very happy Big Fan made it on there. But I mean, I don't know why Zach doesn't like 500 Days of Summer. That was kind of weird when we heard that. So otherwise, that would have been in if he had a top 10. But
Potentially, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and also I'm just a little surprised at the lack of a World's Greatest Dad on here. Like, so that was only on my list. Is that correct?
It was 7th on your list. That was the only appearance.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've never considered The Hurt Locker to be like a great screenplay. It's a great movie, but it's not really a screenplay achievement. But apparently, all three of you disagree with that.
It was on all 3 of our lists, and someone had it number 1. There was only one on all 4 lists. It was Inglourious Bastards, and it almost swept as close to a sweep as Melanie Laurent. So, heavy favorite going into the final round of voting there. But yeah, there we go. That was the original screenplay.
All
Moving
right.
on from there. We had the tripod of depravity. Starting with Stickman, then Douchebag, the most punchable face. We ended up giving the win to a movie I haven't even seen, so it happens. But we nominated Ryan Reynolds in Adventureland, Andy Samberg, I Love You Man, Ashton Kutcher for Spread, Daniel Day-Lewis for 9, and then the winner is Dustin Mulligan in Extract. I mean, it's a widespread array of stickmanery here.
Yeah, I mean, 4 of these are just like 20 somethings in like comedies that we saw, and then Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis. But I thought my point kind of went out there that the movie is literally titled after his paramours. So
Exactly.
yeah.
This is one of our better debated categories.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could necessarily argue. Now, there's some stuff that hasn't been seen, but when you say, "Oh yeah, a Ryan Reynolds performance," yeah, I'm sure he's a stickman. An Ashton Kutcher performance, yeah, I'm sure he's a stickman. Some question Daniel Day-Lewis if they hadn't seen it, but anyways, it works. It works. All right, so the second leg of the tripod was Douchebag, and we had here Nat.
Here, you spelled Zerchi wrong. CZ.
Yeah, CZ. That's what I misheard you. Okay, CZ. For I hope they serve beer in hell. Daryl Sabara for World's Greatest Dad. Strollers in Away We Go. There's our inanimate object. And Stephen Lang in Avatar. The winner was Michael Rappaport for Big Fan. Big Fan got a win.
It did. I mean, but these are peanut, or these are Merlots, I imagine, right? But
I don't even know.
depravity. But yes, I mean, Michael Rappaport. I mean, it's a great win, and I think Stephen Lang it's probably a little bit of an upset that he didn't come away with this, because he's like, I mean, the villain of the big box office movie that year, and we all kind of agreed. I think it was Zach's mention, wasn't it, or was it yours?
It was a consensus.
It was the consensus one.
Mm-hmm. No, Zach's mention was Strollers. My mention was
right.
The Kid in World's Greatest Dad. Yeah, I almost said Stephen Lang for best favorite minor character in The Men Who Stare at Goats, because he pops up in that. He's the first scene of the movie. The guy who decides to try and run into the other room and run through the wall and just runs into the wall. That's Stephen Lang. I didn't even realize it until later on.
Oh.
Okay, punchable face. This is great. Ken Jeong in The Hangover. He definitely belonged on the tripod somewhere, and this is a decent spot to put him. Mika Sloat in Paranormal Activity. I didn't really understand that moment or that mention, but the fact that his name is spelled Micah and it's Mika, I think deserves it. Tevin in I Love You Man, played by Rob Hubel. My point in picking him was if you pee on his face, you can punch it. The entire state of Iowa in Sugar, which, that was a Zach call out. But the winner had to be Clay Bennett in Sonic's Gate. So Sonic's Gate got a win.
And the most deserving one that we possibly could have had.
Yes. It's funny. We nominated a state, but the winner is someone that an entire state wants to punch. So um, there's that.
Well, is that why Zach said he wanted to put Oklahoma on there too?
I don't know. Maybe
He's like, Oklahoma is more punchable than Iowa. I feel like he said that.
you might have said that. Okay. Uh, the tripod went well. Those are always fun, and we can't have any overlap. I don't know if we necessarily would have had any overlap here, but I think it turned out well. Best actress was next, and this was an interesting one. We'll we'll get into the stats of how it turned out the way it did here, but we've got Abby Cornish in Bright Star, Arta Dobroshi for Lorna Silence, Sasha Grey for The Girlfriend Experience, Carrie Mulligan for An Education, Maya Rudolph for Away We Go, and Gabrielle Sidibe for Precious, based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire. There were only 8 overlaps. Now, one of the things that I had mentioned yesterday as we went through this, and I mentioned it to you, is I did not have many eligible performances. I think I counted like 15 eligible performances I had for Best Actress. Coming out of the Pinots, there were, of the categories we need to vote on, there are 5 movies I need to watch that got nominated that I haven't seen. 2 of them are here: Lorna's Silence and The Girlfriend Experience. One I did watch. I watched Bronson on the plane. It's kind of nice doing the tabulating because I can actually get a head start because I'm always the one that has to watch the most. So it was kind of nice. But let's get into this. Only one of them was on all 4 lists. That was Gabrielle Sidibe. I'd say she might be the favorite at this point. Kind of an upset not making the list was Meryl Streep for It's Complicated. She was in 4th
And again, she
place.
was nominated for multiple movies, though.
She was, yeah. She popped up later on for Julie and Julia. She was in 4th place after the first round because she was on 3 lists, but her position on the 3 lists was 7th, 7th, and 10th. So once we took into account Passion, she quickly fell from 4th to 8th. And what, let's see here. You had, what ended up coming up in its place was a performance like Arta Dobroshi in Lorna's Silence, was 7th again, because it wasn't that high on lists. It was 5th and 8th. Zach didn't even remember putting it on his list, which is how it got the nomination. So that's how it got in. When it came down to it, and you looked at Passion, Tilda Swinton for Julia is the only first place that didn't get in. Abby Cornish, Gabrielle Sidibe, and Sasha Grey all had first places. You had Carrie Mulligan for An Education on 3 lists. It had a 2nd place. Maya Rudolph on 3 lists had a 3rd place. And then you got to go down, and you get to Arta Dobroshi down here, which was the next one. The next highest rated one that was on multiple lists. After that, it was Isabel Fuhrman for Orphan. Probably Meryl Streep would have popped in at that point because she was on 3 lists. But there was consensus with her just not on a lot of lists. Now, Abby Cornish, the only reason Abby Cornish got the nomination is because I haven't seen enough movies, and I think I had her on my list at 9th, just because I needed to fill out my list. It's the only reason she got in.
Are you the only other one that saw that movie?
I don't think so, but I didn't really like it. I think I gave it 2 stars, but it was like, you know what? She's not horrible in it, so I'll throw her on there. I actually kind of remember the movie, even though I don't necessarily like the movie. Where like my 10th place was, I think it was Julia Roberts for Duplicity. I don't remember anything about that movie, but I remembered she was a lead in it, so I threw her on my list.
I guess we've all seen Bright Star.
You asked the question about Zoe Saldana. Zoe Saldana had she had a 4th place finish in Best Actress. Okay, so that would have been interesting if we actually had not category split on Zoe Saldana, where that would have ended up.
Yeah, I don't know how he had her in lead. Like,
she's obviously supporting, right?
Yeah, and that's That's what, and then that he wasn't even one that he brought up. Like he was bringing up stuff that like I feel like had no chance of being nominated. That we were like, we need to figure out what category they're in. But like, I was like Zoe Saldana as lead. That's crazy.
Yeah. But when it came down to it, it was these six, and maybe with Meryl Streep sneaking in, especially if you consider nominated for multiple performances. I may need to take that into account um, moving forward. But
I'm surprised no one else had Julie and Julia on their list.
I haven't seen Julie and Julia. I know the
I
others
mean,
have.
and Adam was talking about having her as highest war. So I mean, like I'm just I don't know how he didn't have her on his list.
I don't
Maybe
know.
because he had It's Complicated and he actually followed the rules, unlike Zach.
That could be it. That could be it. Okay.
I need to rewatch Where You Go. I've seen it one time and didn't like it. So if I'm gonna be ranking these, especially with the girlfriend experience in there, which I don't really remember that much either. So
We should well, I'm gonna borrow Adam's DVD for that apparently. So well, you may have to do the same. All right. Next we had Movie Death. Spoiler alert, Movie Death. I thought this one turned out pretty good. You had Michael Gambon in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Alison Lohman, Drag Me to Hell, Richard Sammel in Inglorious Bastards, which is the Bear Jews kill, and then Daryl Sabara, World's Greatest Dad. The winner was Guy Pearce for The Hurt Locker, which I almost said, but you got to go with Dumbledore. Like that's how, and it got Harry Potter a nomination. I think it's the franchise's first nomination for us. But what'd you think of our movie death list?
they are definitely movies that or like deaths that are iconic. So I guess that's good. Like I mean, one franchise, and then you have a Tarantino movie and a war movie, and then a horror movie, and then one that like the whole thing is built around a death. So that I think this is about as good as you could do for this category, which I still think is kind of a funky category to have, but I like it.
Yeah, I like going back and doing the 15th anniversary version of this category. The one year we did it for the recent movies was a little rough, but
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, and I think Guy Pearce for Hurt Locker. I mean, his death was the visual for our Best Picture title card. His death is in our opening video for the Pinots. I mean, it pops up, so I think it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving on. Best actor. All right, Todd. This is where the blind resume popped in. Just letting you know. Best actor. Our lineup was Nicolas Cage for Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans, Ben Foster for The Messenger, Tom Hardy for Bronson, Jeremy Renner for The Hurt Locker, Sam Rockwell for Moon, Robin Williams for World's Greatest Dad. The blind resume was Robin Williams for World's Greatest Dad and Algenis Perez Soto for Sugar. So Robin Williams was the only one on all four lists. There were, let's see here, there were 11 crossovers. Okay. So Robin Williams was the only one on all four lists. He had a 10th, a 3rd, and a 5th. Algenis Perez Soto for Sugar. He was only on 2 lists, but he had a 2nd and an 8th. And it was the only first or second place finish on any list that from this category that did not get in. But Robin Williams was a 3rd and was on all 4 lists. So, like in the adapted screenplay where the Wild Things Are, it had a 3rd. It's not the top 2, right? We say top 3, but top 2 is big. So, for a long time, when I gave you the blind resume, I had Sugar as the 6th nomination. And then as I talked with you through it, you didn't even convince me. I kind of convinced myself, no, it's got to be Robin Williams for World's Greatest Dad. And then finding out it was his birthday when we nominated him kind of made it even better. But yeah, this was like I said, there was a lot of crossover on this one. One of the ones that actually kind of got close, like so Robin Williams was 6, Alejandro Perez Soto was 7. Um, Possibly the next one up was Goodbye Solo, because you put in the the passion like the for the second round, it was in 7th, it was in 9th on the first round, and oh, where did it go? Yeah, it in um Solomon C. Savane, whatever his name is, for Goodbye Solo, and George Clooney Up in the Air were like the next two after those 7. You had two guys that were on 3 lists that didn't even come close to sniffing a nomination in Adam Sandler for Funny People and Michael Stuhlbarg in A Serious Man.
Shit, I didn't have Sandler on my list. I would have been. Would that have put him over the top if I had him in like 10th or something? If he was on
I don't
all
know,
4 lists?
because he had a 2 ninths and an 8th.
Yeah.
Stuhlbarg had an 8th, a 9th, and a 10th. So I honestly don't know if that would have helped. Honestly, it might have convinced me that Sugar needed to be nominated because there was more than one that was going to
All
miss that had all 4. All right, I've talked a lot. What did you think of this?
Well,
yeah.
well, I honestly, I think if it was supporting category, then the Robin Williams resume absolutely would trump it because there's way more supporting performances than lead performances. If we all had him on the list, it kind of has to be in. Here, I mean, I still kind of lean with that I would have taken the guy from Sugar, but I mean, I'm since he was the only one that was on all 4 lists. I mean, that's pretty compelling. And so, overall, this is a great category, though. We have, I mean, Bronson. I don't think if it was today, like, there's no way that performance is getting overlooked by the major awards. True. And same with Ben Foster. So I think we actually have a really great lineup here, and Jeremy Renner being the only Oscar nominee is pretty awesome because I mean that's not a very typical awards baity performance either. It's just a kind of an awesome movie with a great lead actor.
Yeah, I love the lack of overlap with the Oscars in this category. Looking at how the initial round of voting went, Robin Williams, the fact that he's on all 4 lists kind of makes him a dark horse, but I think it's a race between Jeremy Renner and Nicolas Cage, looking at the voting.
So Colin Firth didn't get in. How close was he?
Because Colin Firth was only on 1 list, and he had as a 5th place finish.
That's amazing. I mean, and we nominated Julianne Moore from that movie.
Yeah. So the overlap, or
I rewatched that movie. I still love that movie. That's a top 10 movie for me.
The ones that were on multiple lists: Robin Williams was on 4, Jeremy Renner, Nicolas Cage, Sam Rockwell, Ben Foster, Adam Sandler, and Michael Stuhlbarg were all on 3. Tom Hardy, Solomon C. Savane was Alejandro Perez Soto, and George Clooney were on 2. Like just the fact that there was so much overlap made this category compelling.
And Brad Pitt, first time not getting nominated.
First time. I was the only one that had him on the list, on the top 10. And the crazy thing is there was so much overlap, but for this, like in the passion picks, like I was like the blind resume I gave you was a 2nd place and a 3rd place. Or like all the other categories, I had to go down to like a 5th place to find another consensus pick or another overlap. So like there were a lot of passion behind a lot of performances here. All right, we just got a few left. Best scene. This was a contentious category. The airplane scene in Knowing, the split screen in 500 Days of Summer, the Humvee talk in The Hurt Locker, the aging montage in Up, and the winner is the opening scene in Inglourious Bastards, which was the only time we threw out the consensus before the rest of us talked.
But well, I mean, that's kind of inarguably the best scene of the year, and maybe like Tarantino's best scene. I think that we all were going to say that if we were being honest. So that made sense. I do like all of these mentions. We absolutely chose the best scene in The Hurt Locker, and the montage and Up, of course.
Yeah.
This is this went pretty well. We didn't have any like way off the wall like dumb shit. I mean, you could almost say knowing is dumb shit, but it's actually fun.
Yeah. I had a couple that I couldn't even shout out that I would have been like J.K. Simmons getting fired and up in the air could have been on here.
Yeah.
You had what was the other one I had? Oh, the last scene of Paranormal Activity. The ending of that is pretty jaw dropping. But yeah, I mean it's this opening to Inglourious Bastards is an all timer, so that had to be the winner here. Okay, best director. Moving to best director. Here we go. There. All right. So we had Catherine Bigelow for The Hurt Locker, Neil Blomkamp, District 9, James Cameron, Avatar, Spike Jonze, Where the Wild Things Are, Oren Moverman for The Messenger, Quentin Tarantino for Inglourious Bastards. This was a pretty set 6. I think every version of the voting had these 6. A close, like, tied for 7th, you could say, was Oren Peli for Paranormal Activity and Jason Reitman for Up in the Air. They were like 7th and 8th in almost every way you cut it.
So Paranormal Activity had more than one person voting for it for director?
Yes. There were 10 overlaps.
And I was the only one to nominate Bobcat, right?
Yes, you were. You put him.
That is so lame. Like it is like one of the highest war directing performances.
There were 2 that were on both lists. That was Catherine Bigelow and Quentin Tarantino. It'll be really interesting to see who ends up pulling it out. Fascinating. This is one of the few times where we all had different number 1s, and all 4 of them made the lineup. So James Cameron, Catherine Bigelow, Quentin Tarantino, and Spike Jonze were all listed as number 1s on lists, and all 4 made the lineup. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. That can't be even that common that we've done.
No. And then Neil Blomkamp was the last one in, and his highest finish was a 4th place on a list, but he got in because he was on 3 lists, where Reitman and Peli were on 2 lists, and those both topped out at a 4th place finish as well. Okay, that was director. Any last thoughts?
No, I mean that is pretty cool how close it is between the top 2 contenders. So
yeah. Catherine Bigelow right now has the slight edge, but we'll see how it all plays out. Okay, we've got highest war next, which went really weird, because Adam went screwy on this. Adam and Zach screwed up this category. So Zach went Smashing Pumpkins for Watchmen, which, I mean, I kind of get it, but what? Audrey
I don't
Tautou
even remember what he's talking about.
Yeah, Audrey Tautou, Coco before Chanel, Jackie Earle Haley for Watchmen. Yeah, let's give highest war to a guy in a mask that has a funny voice.
You spelled Tautou wrong. Tautou.
Thank you for the spell check in here. I was gonna double check all these before I actually posted them. And then I finally brought some sanity back to this and said Morgan Freeman for Invictus. We went with Christoph Waltz for Inglourious Bastards as a winner, which is probably the right call. But it's one of those last 2. Audrey Tautou, I've seen the pictures and stuff, so that makes sense as well. But yeah, what happened?
Well, I mean, we can't even blame it on the alcohol because Zach wasn't drinking. So I don't know where he was going with Smashing Pumpkins here. But Adam was desperate to get Watchmen in there, and he got 2 nominations here. Which is kind of, this is as ridiculous as having 2 Nicolas Cage last year for whatever. But I mean, we ended up with the top 2. My top 2 are on the list, Morgan Freeman and Christoph Waltz. So I'm glad that we ended up having those on there, and either one of them was perfect.
Yeah, they were probably my top 2 as well. I was hoping someone else would have said one of them so I could go with, because like they went with their like, oh, this is going to be a fun one. Let's go with this. My version of that was Jim Carrey for A Christmas Carol. With the motion capture animation and him playing like 5 different characters, like it's Jim Carrey. But I had to, you know, go with the obvious ones because no one else was. So, all right, we've got just a couple more left. Ensemble cast. This is always fun because it's something that isn't at the Oscars, so we can't really compare. It is at SAG, but here we are. Best ensemble cast. We have Extract, Funny People, The Hurt Locker, Inglourious Bastards, The Messenger, and Up in the Air. This was a consensus 6. The only other one, 7th place, was in Education. And then It's Complicated and Precious were the only other 2 that had overlap on their lists. But no matter how I cut it, these were the top 6. 2 were on all 4 lists, and that was Inglourious Bastards and Funny People. However, Funny People had the least amount of passion, so Funny People topped out at being 4th on someone's list. So, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, this is still a work in progress category because, I mean, I do my own ensemble cast every year, but I know that that's not something that is like something that you guys think about all the time. So we're like, I still have no idea what to expect whenever we have this come up. I mean, it's not exactly our best picture lineup, but I mean, there's some of that in there. I'm still just excited every time we announce our nominees for this category. I mean, it ended up being pretty good. I mean, we have a nice mix of genres.
And you can't say that we just went with good movies and said that, oh, but their ensembles are good. Because, like, I think The Messenger and Up in the Air, you could say, are in the same category of solid leads and then a lot of little bit parts that add to the chemistry of the whole cast. Bastards and Hurt Locker, I think you could say, are the same category because they've got, like, your core, but it is a widespread array of stars coming in for little bit parts. And then Funny People and Extract, your comedies, where you have great cast chemistry throughout the entire comedy. So, yeah, I think it turned out the way it needed to turn out for this. An Education would have been an interesting addition to that list. I didn't expect that to be that high.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of what everyone thought of that movie, but we all have seen it. Obviously, it was the one that was on all 4 adapted screenplay lists, right? So
yes, yeah. Adam had just watched it for the first time within like the last couple months. It was one of his catch-ups for the Pinots. All right, quote of the year. We went with "Catch You on the Menjay" as our winner because
Catch You on a Menjay.
It's we hear it every episode. Nut Up or Shut Up. It's a good one. Zach quoting a song from Anvil was pretty great. I think you're the one that Now It's a Party from Couples Retreat.
Yes.
That's a bingo. Definitely was a good consensus pick. However, I would have been happy with the Up in the Air one as well. I was kind of holding out hope that Kevin's a Girl would have been able to get in there, but yeah.
Apparently, Zach doesn't like Up, and Adam doesn't like Up, I guess.
Apparently not. It's weird. It's a good list. And I think we went with. It'd be interesting to add in like, almost like take out. This category feels weird. Every time we've done it. What if we changed quote of the year to most quotable movie of the year?
That would definitely change things.
I think I Love You Man still wins. But
well, I mean, it depends on what you've seen a bunch of times. Like for me, I think Zombieland also is right up there in that sense, and Inglourious Bastards would be in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it's not something that's not how I would have organized my thoughts. So the ones I mentioned would have been definitely different. So it's an interesting thought. We could run that by the brain trust and see how see how that goes. Because yeah, I mean, quote of the year is hard, especially when you're looking back that far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just I feel like it's just an odd category of trying to sum up the whole year in a quote or pick out like when we do quote of the day for like a deep dive and stuff like that's fun. We pull out a random quote, but to pull it from the year like quotable movie, I feel like that might be a good tangent to go with that. Okay, last one, best picture, which was an interesting voting process for this. So here's the 2009 list. So our best picture lineup is Avatar, District 9, The Hurt Locker, Inglourious Bastards, The Messenger, Paranormal Activity, Sugar, Up in the Air, and Where the Wild Things Are. I thought it was really interesting. Like I announced them in alphabetical order, and I thought it was great because we started it when I organized them. Like, okay, so we're starting with 4 overlaps with the Oscars, right? Avatar, District 9, Hurt Locker, Inglourious Bastards, and then we go off the deep end. The Messenger, which is the passion pick, it had all the nominations yesterday, and then Paranormal Activity and Sugar, and like that's just when everything went wild. And then Up in the Air, those are always paired in our brains because just of their names. And then I'm like, oh, and then we're gonna end with, oh yeah, and Where the Wild Things Are got it. So this is one where just the way it got announced was fun. There were only 2 movies that made all 4 lists of top 25s.
That's nuts.
Inglourious Bastards and Hurt Locker were the only movies that were on all 4 top 25s. There were a total of 27 overlaps, but only 2 on all 4. You had ones that were on 3, The Messenger, Up, District 9, Avatar, Up in the Air, Sugar, Bad Lieutenant, Big Fan, Fantastic Mr. Fox. So here's kind of how it played out. As it was going along, it was looking like Big Fan and Bad Lieutenant had a shot. First round of voting, Bad Lieutenant and Big Fan were in. Then once you started to put the passion in, and wait a little bit for being higher up on lists, Bad Lieutenant and Big Fan fell out. Where the Wild Things Are and Paranormal Activity moved in. So I think because like you look here, the top 8 were secure. The top 8: Sugar, Up in the Air, Avatar, District 9, Up, Messenger, Hurt Locker, and Glorious Bastards. Those were the top 8, no matter how I cut it. But yeah, the first time it was Bad Lieutenant and Big Fan were 9 and 10. And then here, you even look right next to it. Second round of tabulating, it's Where the Wild Things Are in Paranormal Activity in 9 and 10. Big Fan and Bad Lieutenant are 12th and 13th. The Cove actually jumps up into 11th when you get passion behind it. So then when we got to looking at the final list here, which is kind of the determining one, once again, all 4 different number ones, but all 4 get in. Not only do all 4 get in and are on at least 3 lists. So that's impressive. Then so you had those 4. Next up was Sugar. So Sugar definitely had some passion behind it. And then you had Where the Wild Things Are, District 9, Paranormal Activity. I forgot to highlight those green. Up in the Air. And then Up probably was the last one that popped up on that. But looking at it that way, next one up in line would have been Big Fan, The Cove, and then Bad Lieutenant. Bad Lieutenant made 3 lists, but the highest it was on a list was 12th. So it was on the second half of a lot of lists. So the same thing that got Where the Wild Things Are in got Paranormal Activity in. So all that said, what do you think of our
those are funny movies to be the ones that are the passion picks. But,
right.
This is a bizarre list of movies, and this just shows just how how 2009 isn't the greatest year, because a lot of these are like, yeah, they're pretty good, but like even like on my top 25, like yeah, I have like probably 7 or 8 that I'm just like, yeah, these are like good. I don't know if I would really they make my top 50 in another year, but so the fact that this is our list of nominees and we still did have a bunch of overlap with the Oscars, but 6 of the 10. I guess this makes sense. I didn't realize Paranormal Activity was going to be such a player.
Yeah, well, and it was its only nomination in the major categories too, and same with Sugar. Which is another reason why I was kind of bummed to leave out the Best Actor nomination for Sugar, because it would have given some validity to the nomination for picture.
Yeah, so was this year's Chop Shop, I guess.
Yeah. So the only movies in top threes that missed the Best Picture lineup were Sin Nombre and Watchmen. Because they were on no one else's list. I haven't seen Sin Nombre. I kind of felt bad that I haven't, because Zach obviously has a lot of passion for Sin Nombre. He put it in all over the place, but he was the only one that ever mentioned the movie.
Well, and so, I mean, that was Adam with Watchmen too.
Except I mentioned it for Overrated, so.
And Zach mentioned it for the Smashing Pumpkins.
And Zach mentioned it for Smashing Pumpkins. All right. So yeah, again, just like in director, it's gonna be a battle between Bastards and Hurt Locker. I would say where Catherine Bigelow has a slight edge in director, I think Bastards has an edge in picture. So we'll see.
So how is this compared to our site top 10 or top 5 or top 10?
Oh, good question. I looked this up. Maybe you have it there. My computer freezes if I try to.
Okay, so wait, I have the top 5.
Yeah, that's what we got.
So
I can look it up. Yeah.
Inglourious Bastards, Hurt Locker, District 9, Up, and Avatar.
Which all made it.
And that's not. So and which is different than the left column on here is that equivalent, right?
Yes, but we also it's taken in. This is now
25s.
taken into account top 25s.
Yeah,
and also I think we all changed them up a little bit for as we reevaluated moving into the Pinots. So if I were to take that left-hand column for what is currently on the site, the top 10, and this is just taking into account top 10s. Inglourious Bastards, Hurt Locker, District 9, Up, Avatar. Up in the Air is 6. The Messenger is 7. Where the Wild Things Are is 8. The Cove is 9. And then Hunger is 10, because Zach had it in the wrong year. So, but there's only 9 overlaps in our top 10s on what's currently on our site. It just shows when there's a weaker year, we spread the wealth quite a bit. So I think that's what leads to a Best Picture lineup like that. All right,
so
well, you ready?
Any stats that you wanted to go over?
I've got some stats. Adam sent me some stats already that he's already tabulated. So let's see here. First, like I said, there are 56 films that we nominated, which is the second most behind 2023. We nominated 57, but it's been 57, 56, 55, 54 in the 4 times that we've done this. All right. The stats we've got here, the most nominations, Inglourious Bastards led with 11. The Messenger second with 8, all of them above the line. It didn't get nominated at all in the debated categories, but had 8 above the line categories or above line.
It's not really a movie that would do that. That's that is strange though. Like the fact that it made it in every eligible category above the line, but we didn't mention anywhere else. Yeah, okay.
You've got Hurt Locker with 7 nominations. Up in the Air has 5. Avatar has 4. Where the Wild Things has 4. Extract has 4. Funny People, I Love You Man, Paranormal Activity, Watchmen, World's Greatest Dad all come in at 3 nominations. So far, the most wins is Inglourious Bastards. Currently tied with Dark Knight for 4th most all time, but this is before the voted on categories. Second place so far, Blindside 2. Yeah. So that's fun.
Yeah, we definitely
when he
spread the
sent
wealth
me-
yesterday in terms of wins.
Say that one more time.
We definitely spread the wealth for wins. If
Yeah, we did. Inglourious Bastards with 11 nominations is the most nominated film at the Pinots, followed by Banshees at 10, Wrestler at 10, and Killers of the Flower Moon at 9. Which kind of doesn't surprise me because I mentioned, we talked off air at one point in the last couple weeks, and I said, Adam was asking what's going to lead a nomination. I said probably Bastards, because it's that random combination of a good, really good movie, but with a lot of crazy crap that you can have fun talking about in all the debated categories.
It's a Tarantino movie.
Exactly. All right, actors joining the 2 nomination club: Mike Myers picking up his first win. Ben Affleck, he went from worst performance in 2023 to best supporting actor. Christoph Waltz, Daryl Sabara for douchebag and movie death. Matt Damon and Taylor Lautner, both for worst performance, leads that category. Nicolas Cage received 2 more nominations this year, which puts him in a tie with Brad Pitt for the most nominations all time. Nominees looking to join the 2 Pinot win club: Ben Affleck, if he wins Best Supporting Actor, he'd get a win because he won Worst Performance last year. Christoph Waltz won Highest War. He could win Best Supporting Actor. Miscellaneous winners: basketball owner joins a bear for random winners. An owner and strollers join the likes of dogs, birds, a soccer team, a pair of mountains, and a ball sack for our random nomination choices. Taylor Lautner joins the 2 nomination club of the same category, both for worst performances. He joins Nicolas Cage, who has 3 nominations for Highest War. Brad Pitt, who has 2 nominations for most Cage performance. Brad Pitt, who has 2 nominations for supporting actor, and Colin Farrell, who has 2 nominations for best actor.
Well, Brad Pitt's been nominated for actor too.
Right, but it's just multiple nominations
category.
in the same category. Yeah. Host awards. This is interesting. He tabulated our debated categories. Whose submissions got the most wins? So my submissions picked up 3 wins. Zach's picked up 2. Yours picked up 2. Adam's picked up 2, and Taft won 4. Taft being the consensus pick at the end. The career leaderboard. He's got a career leaderboard. This is awesome. Career leaderboard. I've gotten my 3 wins puts me at 5 all time. Zach has 7, Todd has 9, Adam has 8, Taft has 20. So we often go with the consensus pick. Oh, Adam has 58 total movies nominated. I must have missed one. And the 2009 Pinots is the longest show we ever put on, which I'm surprised by. I didn't think it was longer. I felt like we tried to move pretty quick, but
yeah, I don't know
longer than
how
Vegas?
it ended up being. Yeah, that's surprising. We even had a security breach.
I know. Yeah. All right. Well, there's our stats. Todd, any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I mean I'm gonna have to do some rewatches. I've seen everything nominated again, so but there's some stuff I haven't seen in a long time. So I will try to be as good as I can on my rankings for.
Honestly, I'm not sure if there's a movie that was on any list, period, that you haven't seen. So, let alone nominated.
Well, I mean, no, I haven't seen Human Centipede.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You need to watch that. Well, yeah. Like I said, I've got a few things I need to watch. I need to watch 4 more movies so I can vote. We'll be voting over the next couple weeks. Again, our episode that we will record on August 4th, we will announce the winners, and that episode will come out later on that week. Todd, thanks for getting on. This is always fun. It's fun to break everything down. I think it's time to go. We need to watch the video one more time. Later.
Whatever happens here tonight may as well never have happened at all, because this circle's about as far as it's ever gonna go. In other words, forget everything. Okay, good or bad, We don't remember, so we got nothing to talk about. Through a night we'll never remember, but the four of us will never forget.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Sound good?
Yes, sir!
That's what I like to hear.